Hi there, and welcome to this fifth lesson in our series on using Google Sheets. Now, so far in this series, we've focused a lot of our attention on those parts of Google Sheets that help us to do mathematical calculations. And we used a lot of that functionality in building up a budget template that we could use in multiple projects. But remember in lesson 1, I mentioned that there was another major use for using spreadsheets. And that was to help us manage and understand large sets of data. Now, in this lesson, we're going to start to look at some of those features of Google Sheets. And the database that we're going to work with is a real live database that we use, or we have used here at Mindset, to help us migrate from one system to another. And basically, it lists quite a lot of the content that Mindset has made over the years. So let's jump straight in and do a little bit of the basics in terms of how to use Google Sheets to help you manage large sets of data. This is the database that we'll be using, and it is a list of some of the Mindset schooling resources. It's not a list of everything. It's quite a small part of that list, but it does have 4,761 rows. So it's quite a lot of data in here. The first thing I want to do, though, is to make sure that I understand that this first row is different from the others. This contains headings for each of the topics. So I just want to make all of this bold. That'll just help it stand out. The second thing I want to do is you'll notice that as I scroll down, so I lose row 1. And if I scroll down, I may not be sure what each of these columns refers to anymore. So I would like this first row to remain static on the screen. Very simple to do. All that I need to do is select that row and freeze it. So from the View menu, you can freeze rows. And you can freeze up to 10 rows at a time. But in this case, I only want to freeze row 1. It puts a slightly thicker border at the bottom of that row so that you can see that it is a frozen row. But now look what happens. As I scroll down, row 1 stays in place. And so I am always absolutely sure about what each of the columns are. Now I can do exactly the same thing to this first column. I might want to keep this KMS ID in view no matter how far to the right I scroll. So to do that, View, Freeze Columns, and I want to freeze 1 column. And you can see it puts the same thick border in place over there. And now as I scroll to the right, column A remains in place, and as I scroll down, row 1 remains in place. Quite a nifty feature when you have a large data set like this and you need to keep a track of what columns and what data is when you move away from the top row and the first column. Now, there are 2 other basic operations that will help you manage large data sets like this. Let me show you the first one. Firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this frozen column here. So I'm going to say no frozen columns. Now, the first one is data sort. And it is exactly as you'd expect. It sorts the data. To sort the data, the first thing you need to do is just select all the data that you want to sort. And you'll notice that I clicked on this area of the spreadsheet over here, which is a shortcut area to selecting everything in that sheet. Then from Data, you go to Sort Range. Once you're in Sort Range, it'll tell you exactly what range you are sorting. So I'm sorting from A1 to J4761. First option here that's really, really useful is to indicate whether the data has a header row. And in fact, our data does have a header row. Row 1 is the header. So I'm going to say that yes, it does have a header. And suddenly, you can see that this drop down of column headings changes to reflect our actual column headings. And so now I can start to sort this range and say, right, I want to sort first by subject, and I want to sort that alphabetically A to Z. I then want to add another sort column, and I want to then sort by grade, also from A to Z or ascending, and then I want to sort by topic, and then I want to sort by lesson number. Click on OK, and now suddenly the data set has been sorted for us. So first is subject, so you can see accounting is first, and first was grade 10, then grade 11, then grade 12, then we move on to business studies, then economics, and in each case you can see that we have sorted the data according to those 4 sort criteria. Now obviously you can change the sort criteria at any time. You can sort by any of those columns that are in your data set at any time, by one of them, by all of them, you can sort them in different orders. You can sort them from A to Z or from Z to A. The other really nifty feature in Spreadsheets and Google Sheets as well is the ability to filter on the data that is inside each column. Now this differs from sort. Sort keeps the whole data set in view and simply sorts it ascendingly or descendingly. What filter does is it actually picks out specific data for you to look at. Let's see how that's done. So to apply filters to all of this data, I firstly need to select all of the data. There's my nice little shortcut key. And from the data menu, select filter. And this is going to do a couple of things. The first thing is you'll see that the row and column headings are now green, indicating that that data is being filtered. And you'll also see this little drop-down arrow in each of the row headings, in other words, column headings, in other words, row 1. If you click on those drop-downs, then you get this menu. And here you can see, firstly, by just dragging down, scrolling down, all of the values that are represented in that column. If we do that on another column, all of the values that are represented in the grade column. All of the values that are represented in the topic column. Now, in order to apply a filter, you simply need to either select or unselect specific entries in that column. So one of the easiest things to do is to clear all of the entries and then to select the ones that you want. So for example, we could do a filter just showing accounting. So accounting is the only item that has a little tick mark next to it. When we click on OK, this changes to that little funnel indicating that this column is now being filtered upon. And if we scroll down, you will notice that we can only see accounting. If I were to change this filter and say we don't want to see accounting anymore, we want to see mathematics, click on OK. Suddenly all that we can see is just mathematics. But the really neat thing is that we can apply successive filters. So we've applied a filter for mathematics. Now within that, we can see all of the grades that are part of mathematics. So we can apply another filter to say we just want to see grade 10. So we'll clear them all and just select grade 10. Now we've got mathematics and grade 10. If we were to go to the topic column now, this list is all the topics that are in mathematics grade 10. And in this case, I want to do a filter on the topic called circles. So I'm going to clear all of them, and in this box, I'm going to type circles, and there you can see the topic of circles appears. Click on OK. And suddenly what we have filtered from the entire data set is just this one Mathematics Grade 10 series on circles. To undo the filters, simply select all and apply, select all and apply, and select all and apply. Now I hope you can see that that was really, really easy, and that filtering gives you enormous power in terms of understanding what data is in your data set and filtering out specific pieces of data that you might want to focus on at any given time. Now, in order for us to move on with the rest of this lesson, I want to apply another specific filter so that we can pick up specific records that then we can do some additional calculations and formula on. Have a look. So the filter that I want to apply is for information technology. Grade 12. So I don't want grade 10 and I don't want grade 11. I just want grade 12. And now we've got all of the grade 12 information technology records. In this KMS ID filter, I just want to quickly show you something. Here we've got a number of different entries. We've got some blanks. All that indicates is these are the cells where there is no data present. Then we've got some funny looking numbers, which are our internal references for these videos. And then we've got multimedia, which is of a cluster type, multimedia, which is of a single type, and PDF documents. Now that we've got the subset of our data, we can do some modifications to some of the data in the spreadsheet. Now, one of the things that we had to do is we had to transform some of the data in the spreadsheet to get it into a form that allowed the software that we are now using to process these records. And we used some of the Google Sheets functions to allow us to do that. And I'm going to take you through some of what we did to get this data working for us. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is from the KMS ID column, I'm going to select all of the multimedia single type of resources. And that's going to give us this list here. Now, as I scroll to the right, you'll notice that we've got this path column. And all that's in this path column is a very long URL. That's a link, a reference to where this multimedia sits on our servers. The first thing I want to do, though, is I want to insert a column to the right of this and call this column short path. Because one of the transformations that I would like to make is to change each of these URLs and to actually take away, delete, remove that entire portion over there. But you can see how long and cumbersome it would be if I had to do that all manually by hand. In this case, we don't have that many records, but what if you had thousands upon thousands of records that you wanted to transform in exactly the same way? Well, for the rest of this lesson, we're going to do exactly that and use a couple of really, really nifty Google Sheet functions. The first one I'm going to show you is the function called len. Let me explain what len does. Now, what len does is it simply counts the length of a string of text. So if I would like to count the number of characters in that string of text, I'm just going to quickly copy that out and paste it in short path just for the moment so that we can work out how long it is. And then I'm going to add in the function. So it's equal to len, open up the brackets. Because this is a text string, it needs to be in quotation marks. Close the brackets and press enter to calculate. Right, we can see that that portion of text from HTTP all the way to the bottom of resources / is 40 characters long. Now, I've got the information I need to proceed. I know how long the length of characters are that I want to remove from that string when I transform it. 40 characters. In other words, I need to figure out how to remove the first 40 characters from each of those strings. So to transform this data and take off the first 40 characters, I'm going to use another function called mid. So like all functions, equal mid, open brackets. And in this case, mid requires you to indicate the string that you want to transform, which character in that string you'd like to start at, and how much of the rest of that character string you'd like to extract. So in our case, we would like to work with this character, the character string that's in this cell. We want to start from character number 41. Remember that length was 40, so character 41 is the first character that we are interested in. And when we go to this part, the exact extract length, well, we can choose pretty much any number. Even if we don't have 100 characters in the string, it doesn't matter. We could, if we wanted to, calculate the length of each of these strings, or we could simply choose a number that we are assured would be longer than the character string that we're actually working with. So when we press enter, watch what happens. Can you see that it has taken that string of characters and simply given us back all the characters from character number 41, which is that one. Now, all that we need to do is simply autofill that, and we have done the transformation for all of those character strings in one go. Well, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this lesson. But be sure to join me for the next lesson, when we're going to be doing some really interesting data transformations on this set of data. Until then, bye-bye.